You already know this truth, though you have spent years trying to ignore it in the shadows of your own mind. Your life will never rise higher than the beliefs you hold about yourself. I am not speaking of the idle thoughts you entertain during the day. I am speaking of the deep, subconscious ledger that dictates your worth, your capacity, and your limit. Every opportunity you missed, every chance you hesitated on, every dream you abandoned, each one was lost long before the moment of action arrived. It was lost in the quiet machinery of your internal world. If you do not remove those limiting beliefs, nothing else you try will matter. Not the new habits you attempt to force, not the goals you write in your notebooks, not the strategies you borrow from more successful men. A man cannot build a palace on a foundation that crumbles under its own doubt. And your foundation, your subconscious, is still carrying beliefs you never chose, beliefs that were hammered into you by the fear and criticism of others, and you have lived by them for far too long. This is why these hours matter more than you can currently realize. We are not here to inspire you. Inspiration is a fleeting vapor. We are here to rewrite the code of your existence. While you listen, while your conscious objections fade and your doubts grow silent, your deepest beliefs become open to reconstruction. Let me speak plainly. If you skip this audit tonight, you will wake tomorrow as the same man who has carried the same limitations for a lifetime. But if you allow these words to reach the inner chamber of your being, you will begin the transformation most men chase until the day they die and never secure. Consider how many fortunes your limiting beliefs have already stolen from you. The position of power you convinced yourself you weren't ready for. The relationship you thought you weren't worthy of. The industry you told yourself you couldn't disrupt. The goals you shrank because a whisper in your mind said, "Not for you." Every part of your life has been touched by beliefs formed before you even understood their power. They are built from moments you no longer remember, yet you obey them with the loyalty of a servant. Tonight, you break that obedience. Think of the energy you have wasted trying to think positive while your subconscious repeated the same old story of lack beneath your efforts. That is why your progress has been so painfully slow. Your conscious desires and your inner identity have been at war with each other. But as these words enter the furnace of your mind, the war ends. The subconscious does not argue, it does not resist, it absorbs. And once it absorbs a new belief, it begins reorganizing your entire reality to match the new blueprint. Most men never give themselves this chance. They try to change in the glare of the daylight, while their nights undo all their progress. They try to motivate themselves while their inner voice calls them small, incapable, and undeserving. They try to arise while carrying weights they cannot see. You are about to release those weights into the fire. How many more opportunities are you willing to lose because of a belief that never belonged to you? How many more years will you let fear disguise itself as caution? How many dreams will you bury under the excuse of someday? Tonight is the night that someday dies in the gears. This is not entertainment. These are not comforting words for the faint of heart. These are commands written for the subconscious, the only part of you capable of creating a lasting industrial change. When these beliefs change, your habits change. When your habits change, your results change. When your results change, your very destiny is altered. 3 hours, that is the price. 3 hours to dismantle the walls you did not build but have lived behind like a prisoner. 3 hours to replace the beliefs that have dictated your income, your relationships, and your decisions. There are people in your life who would not recognize the version of you that will emerge once these limiting beliefs are removed. Some will fear your growth. Some will cling to the old version of you because your smallness made them feel comfortable. Do not shrink for them. You are not here to reassure the world of its own mediocrity. You are here to reclaim yourself. Picture waking tomorrow with a mind that does not argue with your goals, a mind that does not sabotage your effort, a mind that sees opportunity where it used to see danger. That is the power of removing limiting beliefs at their source.
But this requires your full obedience to the process. Let the repetition wash over you. Let the words settle like molten iron into a mold. Let the old identity dissolve without ceremony. Once your subconscious believes you can rise, you will rise. Once it believes you deserve abundance, you will accept it without hesitation. Once it believes you are meant for greatness, you will pursue it without apology. This is your chance. Do not waste the heat of the furnace. Let the day fall away, and let these words reach the place where your fears once ruled. When the beliefs change, the life must follow. Every man carries within him a story told by his subconscious, a tale formed not from reason, but from repetition. It began in the soot of childhood, when words of limitation fell upon the open soil of your mind like careless seeds. Over the years, those seeds sprouted into weeds of fear and doubt, covering the garden where your dreams once grew freely. You cannot tear out these weeds by force. The more fiercely you resist a thought, the deeper it anchors itself in the emotion of the struggle. Fear cannot be destroyed by conflict. It can only be displaced by faith. Darkness cannot be chased out of a room. It must be replaced by light. This is the law of mental substitution. All transformation occurs through replacement, not rejection. The subconscious accepts every idea you repeat with feeling. It does not reason, it grows whatever is planted. If you allow old images of failure to remain in the gears, they will produce failure endlessly. The only cure is substitution, to give the mind a new picture so vivid, so constant, that the old one fades from a lack of attention. Thomas Edison mastered this law. He met thousands of failures, yet he never entertained the thought of defeat. When a filament broke, he did not say, "I have failed." He said, "I have found one more way that will not work." He replaced doubt with curiosity. He replaced power for weakness until his mind could no longer even conceive of the possibility of failure. Every man can do the same, but he must practice nightly substitution. For the mind, in the moments before sleep, stands between two worlds, the world of conscious choice and the world of subconscious obedience. In that silent passage, the last thought you hold becomes a command. If you drift to sleep rehearsing your fears, the subconscious takes fear as its instruction for the next day. But if you rest with faith, it will build your world in that image. Before closing your eyes, you must audit the thoughts of your day. Where you said, "I am not enough," you must substitute, "I am capable and prepared." Where you thought, "It never works for me," you must substitute, "Everything moves in my favor." Each substitution is a stroke of the master's chisel upon the stone of your character. Andrew Carnegie rose by this very principle. As a poor telegraph boy, he heard men speak of power, wealth, and influence. Most youths in his position would have whispered, "That life is not for me." But Carnegie substituted the thought. He said, "That life is inevitable for me." He rehearsed the image of command. He saw himself directing others and handling massive responsibility long before his hands ever touched the ledger. His mind accepted the image, and when opportunity arrived, it found him perfectly aligned. The law is exact. Whatever image the mind dwells upon with feeling becomes form. The subconscious is a servant of pictures, not merely words. You may speak of faith 1,000 times, but if you feel fear, fear will rule the factory. Replace the picture and the harvest changes. Repetition is the only method by which the new beliefs take root. The old ideas have been fed by years of attention. They will not vanish after a single whisper. You must persist until the new belief grows stronger than the old iron. Say each night, "Every thought I plant grows in my favor." Speak it slowly. Speak it with the weight of conviction. At first, your old thoughts will fight for their life. They will whisper that this is foolishness. They will return as habits return. But a habit dies from neglect. Feed only the new picture, and the old will wither from starvation. The subconscious cannot hold two conflicting truths. It will always execute the one you feed most.
Every man lives within an invisible courtroom of his own making. You may believe you are walking the streets as a free agent, but in truth, every hour of your day you are standing trial before your own mind. You are being accused or defended by the thoughts you entertain, by the whispers you allow to echo in the halls of your spirit. The subconscious, acting as the perfect, tireless stenographer, records every single word of this trial. It writes down each statement of lack, each judgment of unworthiness, and each whispered declaration of defeat. And from these records, this cold, hard evidence, it builds the verdict of your life. You may think that fate decides your future or that opportunity is a random visitor who chooses his hosts by whim. It is not so. It is the testimony you give to your subconscious that shapes every circumstance that follows. The subconscious accepts your words as law, whether those words arise from the height of truth or the gutter of fear. It does not weigh evidence like a human judge. It obeys conviction. Whatever you declare most often, with the most heat and the most emotion, becomes the irrevocable decree of your destiny. This is the law of inner testimony. Every repeated statement you make about yourself becomes a witness that shapes your physical reality. Each time you say, "I can't," or "I'm not ready," or "I don't deserve this," you are making a sworn declaration before the unseen judge of infinite intelligence. The world outside, the banks, the markets, the industries, cannot contradict what you persist in affirming within. You may change your surroundings, you may move to a new city, or you may find a new profession, but if your testimony remains the same, the outcome will repeat itself with the precision of a machine. To change the life, you must change the testimony. The subconscious is the perfect servant, but it only follows the last order given. If you tell it you are weak, it will search the world for evidence to confirm your weakness. If you tell it you are capable, it will begin arranging the proofs of your strength. The law is exact. Belief precedes evidence, not the other way around. Every man must decide which role he plays in the court of his own mind, the accuser or the defender. The accuser repeats his faults, his misfortunes, and his past failures until he convinces the subconscious of his guilt. He provides the proof of why he should remain in the prison of poverty. The defender, however, repeats his power, his purpose, and his faith until he convinces the subconscious of his destiny. The world merely enacts the verdict that you have already passed in the secret silence of your own mind. Consider Henry Ford. Every expert in his day testified against his vision. They called his dream of a car for the masses impractical. They called his plan impossible. But Ford's inner voice gave contrary testimony. In the silence of his workshop, he declared, "It shall be done." His subconscious made their verdict powerless. It accepted his conviction as the only authority in the room. He built an empire not by winning an argument with the world, but by winning the trial within himself. Abraham Lincoln lived by this same law. He was ridiculed, he was defeated in election after election, and he was criticized by the most powerful voices in the land. Yet his inner testimony never wavered. He said, "The cause is right, therefore it must prevail." That inner sentence became the ruling of his subconscious, and it organized the outer world to match it. When the storms of doubt raged around him, he retreated into that quiet certainty. His testimony, not the clamor of his critics, became the final word on the matter. Understand this clearly. The subconscious is a mirror. It reflects only what you hold before it. If you speak of limitation, it echoes limitation. If you speak of expansion, it multiplies opportunity. A man cannot continually testify against himself and expect to walk in freedom.
Self-condemnation is the heavy chain that binds a man to mediocrity.
Each night, as you prepare for rest, you are standing before the invisible judge of your own destiny. The last words you speak to yourself become the closing statement of the day's trial. If those words are of defeat, the subconscious records them as the final, absolute truth. If they are of victory, the same law applies. You must speak, therefore, with a sense of purpose, as if you were addressing infinite intelligence directly. You must practice nightly declarations. Speak aloud, slowly, and with the authority of an iron master. I am destined for great accomplishment. I am loyal to my success. I command confidence, opportunity, and faith. Do not whisper these words timidly like a man asking for a favor. Speak them as one announcing a law that is already in motion. The subconscious recognizes the tone more than the phrase itself. It obeys the conviction behind the sound. At first, your conscious mind may try to call you a liar. It will say, "But this is not true yet. Look at the bank account. Look at the failures." That thought is the voice of the accuser. It betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of the machinery. The subconscious accepts no yet. To the subconscious, all is now. You must declare the desired state as a present reality for it to become an instruction. If you declare it as a future event, it will remain forever out of reach, like a horizon you can never touch. The man who says, "I will be strong," keeps strength waiting at a distance. The man who says, "I am strong," draws strength into his bones immediately. There is no trickery here. It is obedience to the law. The subconscious does not distinguish between a physical fact and a spiritual faith. It follows the feeling. The more emotion you attach to your testimony, the faster it takes root in the iron soil of your reality. Speak your declaration with warmth, with gratitude, and with a cold certainty that it is done. Words shape the very nervous system of a man. They influence his breath, his pulse, and his expression. A man who declares, "I am confident," straightens his posture without even realizing he has done so. A man who says, "I am afraid," contracts his muscles and shallows his breath. The body is the first responder to the verdict of the mind, and the world responds to the body. Observe the difference between two men in the marketplace. One says, "I cannot afford it." The other says, "I am finding the means." The first mind has commanded limitation. The second has commanded resourcefulness. The subconscious of the first man begins closing doors, shrinking his perception, and reducing his ideas. The subconscious of the second man opens the channels of thought, draws solutions from the ether, and attracts helpers. They both live in the same world, but they inhabit entirely different universes because they testify differently. You may wonder, what if I have given false testimony against myself for 20 years? The answer is the most hopeful law in the industrial world. Begin new testimony tonight. The subconscious is not vindictive. It does not hold a grudge for your past ignorance. It is always ready to rewrite its record the moment you present new, high-conviction evidence. The past only matters as long as you continue to repeat it. The moment you cease declaring your limitation, the law begins to erase its effect on your ledger. Do not wait for perfect faith before you begin. Speak the new truth even if your voice trembles. Repetition builds conviction. The first 100 declarations may feel hollow, like a hammer striking empty air, but the 101st will be filled with the fire of the furnace. The subconscious learns by insistence. What the conscious mind repeats, the subconscious eventually accepts as the only possible reality. I have seen a salesman double his income in a single season by practicing this law. Each night, he read a creed of self-confidence aloud until his voice was thick with emotion. He declared, "I believe in my ability to influence men honorably. I deserve success because I render more value than I receive."
At first, he felt like an actor on a stage, but repetition transformed the pretense into belief. His subconscious began to expect success, and the world, seeing that expectation, yielded. This is not magic, it is precision engineering. The subconscious arranges your reality to fit the strongest blueprint you provide. If that blueprint says, "I am unworthy," events will arise to confirm that unworthiness. If it says, "I am capable," opportunities will appear to prove that capability. The law never fails, it only obeys. Each morning, the trial begins anew. Before you rise from your bed, listen for the first thought that greets you. That thought is often the echo of the previous night's declaration. If it says, "Today will be difficult," recognize it as an old order still in effect. Replace it at once. Say, "Today flows with ease and purpose." Speak it before the body moves. The subconscious, still half immersed in the world of sleep, will seize that command eagerly. Understand that the world reads your inner verdict long before you ever speak it aloud to another human being. People respond to what you believe, not what you claim. The man who secretly doubts his own worth cannot disguise it with expensive clothes or clever words. His tone betrays him, his posture confesses, his eyes whisper his uncertainty. But the man who has settled his worth within needs no display. His confidence radiates without effort. This quiet power draws cooperation from the highest circles of industry. No external criticism can defeat the man who has made his own verdict final. Let others accuse, let them mock, let them doubt your vision. It matters not. Their words strike against the armor of your self-conviction and fall to the ground like blunted arrows. The subconscious, loyal to its master, repeats the internal truth until the external world has no choice but to yield. There is a story of a young inventor who presented his device to a group of wealthy investors. They laughed at him. They called his machine an absurdity. That night he reviewed their ridicule, and he faced a choice: to accept their judgment or to write his own. He chose the latter. He said aloud, "They do not see what I see, but the law sees it. Therefore it shall come to pass." Within a year, those same men were begging for a partnership. His testimony, not theirs, became the fact. The law cannot fail because it operates through belief. Whatever you declare often enough becomes your identity, and your identity governs your destiny. You can never consistently act against what you believe yourself to be. Therefore, if you wish to rise, you must first declare yourself risen. Speak as the man you intend to become until the subconscious forgets the lesser man entirely. Each declaration carves a channel in your thought. The more you affirm your strength, the easier that strength flows into your hands. In time, it becomes a reflex. When a challenge appears, faith responds automatically. That is true mastery, not the absence of difficulty, but the automatic presence of courage. Practice gratitude as part of your testimony. Say each night, "I thank the infinite intelligence for the progress of this day. I thank my subconscious for its faithful service. I thank life for its abundance." Gratitude seals your conviction. It tells the subconscious that the result already exists. Faith with gratitude becomes certainty. Avoid idle words. Every complaint you utter is testimony for your limitation. Every self-deprecating joke is a command to the subconscious to keep you small. Do not mock yourself. The law has no sense of humor. If you say, "I am always unlucky," it obeys you literally. Train your tongue to speak only what you wish to see multiplied in your ledger. Speech is seed. Plant wisely. When you fail, and you will at times, make that failure serve the law. Say, "This event refines my wisdom." Never say, "I failed again." Replace each negative verdict with a constructive one. The subconscious will then extract power from the defeat rather than despair. The The secret of all transformation lies in repetition with emotion. The subconscious is impressed only by what is felt as true. The only illusion in this world is fear. Faith is the only reality. Over time, you will notice an inner quiet replacing the old struggle. Old thoughts of doubt will fade, not because you fought them, but because you neglected them. The subconscious cannot serve two masters. Once it accepts your higher testimony, it forgets the lesser man forever. As the months pass, your results will confirm your declarations. Success will not arrive as a sudden, random miracle, but as a steady, orderly unfolding. You will meet the right people. The circumstances will align without strain. Others will call it luck. You will know it as law. Let these nightly affirmations guide you. Repeat them as if you were addressing the infinite court of creation.
The average man believes only what his physical eyes can see. He bows before the visible facts of his environment and calls them reality. He looks at a bank ledger that is empty or a factory floor that is silent, and he says, "This is the truth of my life." But the wise man, the man who has studied the metaphysics of industry, understands that every visible fact is only an after effect. It is the echo of old beliefs returning to you through the medium of circumstance. Change the inner cause, and soon the outer proof must change to match the new vibration. Most men live as slaves to appearances. They meet a delay in their plans and they declare, "This proves I am not meant to succeed." They meet a closed door and they mutter, "This proves the law does not work for me." Yet nothing could be farther from the industrial truth. Every appearance of lack is simply the outer world rearranging itself to make room for the coming abundance. Consider the law of reverse evidence. It teaches that what seems to deny you is often the very force preparing you. Rejection is merely correction. Failure is formation. The very moment you are tempted to doubt the law is the precise moment it is nearest to its fulfillment. Infinite intelligence often disguises opportunity as difficulty, specifically to strengthen the man who will soon hold the keys to power. Think back to the miner, R.U. Darby. He quit his gold mine just 3 feet from a fortune that would have changed his lineage forever. His tools were sound, his method was right, his faith was once strong, but he misread the evidence. The appearance of empty rock deceived him into a total surrender. Years later, as a master of insurance, he applied the lesson. He vowed never again to stop because the evidence looked grim. The gold had been there all along, hiding behind 3 feet of resistance. So it is with every man. Most abandon their purpose in the very hour when the most progress is being made unseen. The subconscious is working beneath the surface of your life right now, aligning men, means, and moments in obedience to your belief. But if you call that hidden period failure, you reverse the command. The subconscious then turns inward, confused and halting its work. To master this law, you must become an interpreter of appearances. You must look upon every delay and say, "This is not denial, this is refinement." You must treat every setback as a signal, not a sentence. For whatever you decide a piece of evidence means, the subconscious takes that meaning as a new law. Thomas Edison practiced this art with a precision that bordered on the divine. He failed more than 1,000 times before the first incandescent light bulb glowed in the darkness. Yet he never once allowed his lips to utter the word failure. He called each attempt another discovery of what would not work. That interpretation, that reverse evidence, strengthened his subconscious. It never once accepted the verdict of defeat. The same world that mocked him as a dreamer soon bowed before his creation. His success was not the absence of obstacles, but his total mastery of meaning. Henry Ford met evidence that would have broken the spirit of 1,000 lesser men. Banks refused him credit with a sneer. Experts called him a fool.
His machines broke, his workers walked out, yet Ford's mind refused to accept the visible as the final word. He issued a decree: "I will build a motor car for the great multitude." His subconscious, hearing that command, turned all outward contradiction into internal confirmation. The law obeyed the man who refused to believe his eyes. Remember this eternal principle: conditions are effects, not causes. They are the shadows cast by the light of your own internal belief. The man who spends his life chasing shadows exhausts himself and achieves nothing. The man who turns toward the light changes the shadow's form. When difficulty visits you in 2026, you must speak within. This too is the law fulfilling itself. Such a calm acknowledgement transforms fear into fuel. The subconscious, hearing no panic in the voice of its master, proceeds confidently with its task of reconstruction. Each night, you must conduct an audit of the day's events. Where the world seemed to oppose your march, you must reinterpret it before you sleep. Say, "This was not a loss, it was guidance. This was not a rejection, it was protection. This was not a failure, it was preparation." Speak these reinterpretations slowly and with the weight of conviction. Your subconscious will rewrite its files and extract power from what once produced only pain. To understand the power of this law, you must see life as a sequence. Infinite intelligence works through stages. The seed must be buried in the dark, cold earth before it can grow into the harvest. The night must reach its deepest blackness before the dawn appears. The winter must strengthen the roots before the spring can show its bloom. If you judged by appearances alone, you would call winter a failure of nature. Yet winter is nature's discipline, her essential preparation for abundance. So it is with the human soul. A man prays for strength, and life gives him hardship to build the muscle. He asks for courage, and the law presents him with fear so that he may conquer it. He desires faith, and the universe sends him silence to test the depth of his conviction. To the untrained, disorganized mind, this looks like contradiction. To the Titan, it is cooperation.
Charles M. Schwab rose by understanding this perfectly. When the steel industry trembled with the uncertainty of a market collapse, when his competitors were merging in a panic of survival, Schwab remained cheerful. He said, "Every panic carries the seeds of a new prosperity." His calm turned the panic into a profit. His subconscious, fed only on confidence, reorganized the facts of the market to match his faith. Do not think for a moment that faith means blindness. It means a sight of a higher order. It is the ability to perceive the cause while others are distracted by the effect. To the man of faith, appearances are servants, not masters. He reads them as signs of progress, not as sentences of doom. There is an order in all things, though the steps may appear chaotic to the common eye. Infinite intelligence does not err. If you hold your desire with the patience of iron, the law will perfect every detail. The bridge to your success may still be under construction in the invisible world. You must wait with understanding, and the bridge will appear under your feet the moment the time is ripe. Every great builder of this nation faced the hour when materials seemed lacking, yet they proceeded as if the supply were already on its way. Their subconscious, seeing that expectation, summoned the necessary means from the most unlikely places. Andrew Carnegie began with nothing but the belief that men could cooperate for a commonwealth. He acted as though the law were already in motion, even when his pockets were empty. And it was. What you expect during adversity determines your destiny after it. Expect defeat, and you perpetuate the cycle. Expect refinement, and you rise from the furnace purified. The man who thanks life even for his trials multiplies his own good. Gratitude is the alchemy that transforms an obstacle into a stepping stone. When the road seems closed, you must practice this nightly exercise. Before sleep, bring to mind the most discouraging event of your day. Then say, I bless this event. I see its hidden good. I accept its lesson, and I command it to serve me. Imagine a white light surrounding the event until its heaviness dissolves into the ether. The subconscious will interpret this as a new instruction and will seek the hidden benefit until it finds it. King Gillette applied this principle through 6 long years of brutal rejection. His idea for a safety razor was scorched by the experts as foolishness. Investors turned him away with laughter. Factories refused his orders. Yet he never called those years a defeat. He said, they are proof that the idea is valuable, else it would not resist me so fiercely. That interpretation preserved his faith. When success finally came, it came in a torrent of gold. His fortune was the interest paid on years of right interpretation. You too will experience contradiction in 2026. The world will sometimes echo your old, dead beliefs, even as you are replacing them. Fear will masquerade as reality one final time just to test the strength of your new conviction. Do not be deceived. This is not regression, it is purification. The old pattern must exhaust itself entirely before it vanishes from the gears. When a man reaches this understanding, he becomes immovable. Others may flinch, they may complain, or they may surrender their dreams at the first sign of a storm, but the Titan remains serene. His peace is not ignorance, it is mastery. People will notice this peace, and they will mistake it for luck. They will say, he never seems disturbed no matter what happens. What they cannot see is the inner habit of right interpretation that governs his mind. Let this be your iron rule. When events appear contrary to your desire, do not react, reinterpret. Feel the emotion you would feel if the event were a blessing in disguise, and soon it will reveal itself as such. This practice trains the subconscious to see benefit everywhere, and what the subconscious expects, it must create. You will save years, perhaps decades, by mastering this single law. Most men spend their lives recovering from disappointments because they misread them as permanent scars. The man who practices reverse evidence transforms each loss into leverage. He learns more from his defeats than others learn from their victories. Let me speak plainly. No man is ever defeated until he accepts defeat as a fact. Every so-called failure is merely unfinished success. The law never withdraws its promise. It only withholds it until you are ready to possess it rightly. Faith is not the denial of difficulty. It is the interpretation of purpose. It says, this too belongs to my advancement. It finds meaning where others find misery. Such faith does not come from a blind, hollow optimism. It comes from an intelligent, cold recognition of the law. When you understand that all motion in life serves the upward evolution of the soul, you cease to fear the downward turns of the market. The subconscious mirrors your emotional conclusion about every event. If you feel this is bad, it creates results to match that feeling. If you feel this is good, it draws proof accordingly. The difference between despair and discovery lies in your decision about meaning. Let these affirmations guide you when the world looks dark. Every obstacle contains its own instruction. Delay is not denial. My faith interprets every event for my ultimate benefit. Repeat them not as an escape from pain, but as a declaration of principle. Feel the truth behind them. In time, your subconscious will make them a reflex. You will find yourself calm in the face of uncertainty, certain amid the confusion, and steadfast while others scatter like leaves. Observe how this composure changes your world. Opportunities will seek you out. Others will trust you in a crisis because your steadiness feels like safety.
They will not know that your calm comes from your nightly communion with the law. They will only feel drawn to the man who can see clearly when others are blinded by panic. Infinite intelligence rewards such faith with total cooperation. Doors that were barred shut will begin to open. People who once doubted your vision will begin to offer your assistance. Circumstances will rearrange themselves to confirm your inner expectation. The outer world simply cannot resist a mind that interprets everything as progress. Do not rush the process. You are not proving yourself to the law. The law is proving itself to you. Each delay tests your endurance. Each apparent failure refines your desire. Each silence strengthens your word. When the time ripens, what once resisted you will serve you with a fierce loyalty. Look again at your past failures. How many times did a disappointment later reveal itself as a blessing? How many mistakes led you to a far better path than the one you intended? The law of reverse evidence has always been at work in your life. You simply were not aware of it. Now you will use it consciously. You will call good forth even from the ashes of a fire. Practice gratitude even when nothing seems worthy of thanks. Gratitude is the language the subconscious understands best. It interprets thankfulness as proof of possession. When you thank the universe before receiving the prize, you demonstrate the highest form of faith, and faith is the master key. Remember, every visible result is but the shadow of an invisible state of mind. When you change the state, the shadow must alter its shape. Be patient as the material world adjusts to your new thought. Just as the echo lags behind the voice, results lag behind belief, but they always arrive.
There comes a point in the journey of every man when repetition gives birth to revelation. He begins to feel a subtle, tectonic shift within his soul. It is not a sudden, loud miracle, but a steady, silent obedience to the law. The same words he once repeated as a mere practice now ring with the chime of absolute conviction. The same ideas that once seemed like distant stars now feel like the very air in his lungs. It is at this precise moment that the old identity begins to crumble and the new man begins to rise from the slag. This is the law of inner rebirth. You have heard it said in the ancient texts that a man cannot put new wine into old, brittle bottles. In the world of industry, the same law applies. You cannot pour the molten gold of a new faith into the rusted, warped mold of your old fears. The vessel must break before the new substance can fill the space. Every old belief, every recurring pattern of doubt, and every scar of past defeat must be liquidated to make room for what you are becoming in 2026. The subconscious, once ruled by the ghost of fear, must die to that rule before it can serve a new master. Most men resist this death with a frantic desperation. They cling to their old identity, their story of struggle, as if it were a life raft, not realizing it is actually the anchor that is drowning them. They hold tightly to their habits of self-criticism and their excuses of caution because they have mistaken familiarity for security. Yet I tell you from the heights of achievement, no man ever rose while clutching his chains. The law of inner rebirth demands a total surrender. It is the letting go of who you were to make room for who you must become. This death is not a destruction, it is a transformation. Just as the seed must decay in the dark earth before the sprout can reach for the sun, your old, limited self must dissolve before the new power can emerge. The subconscious cannot serve two masters. It cannot build a monument of greatness upon a foundation of inferiority. The law, therefore, must tear down the old house before it can build the skyscraper. The pain you feel during this process, the discomfort of the change, is not a punishment, it is birth. You will know this law is working when things that were once familiar to you begin to lose their meaning. Conversations that once excited your mind will suddenly feel hollow and boring. Environments that once felt comfortable will start to feel restrictive and small. Friends who once mirrored your old beliefs will grow distant. Do not mistake this for a loss. It is refinement. You are not being abandoned by the world. You are being redefined by the law. Abraham Lincoln lived this transformation through the fire of personal tragedy and public mockery. Every repeated failure and every stinging rejection carved away everything that was false in him until only his faith in his purpose remained. He rose from defeat after defeat, each one removing another layer of the old Lincoln. By the time the world finally recognized him as great, he had already buried the man of doubt in the silence of his own heart. His rebirth occurred long before his inauguration. F.W. Woolworth faced the same crucible of liquidation. He was laughed at by established merchants. He was mocked for his vision of a 5- and 10-cent store. He watched failure follow failure like a funeral procession, but rather than collapse, he used each loss to purify his belief. The man who first opened a single counter of cheap goods died to his small thinking long before the world called him a king of retail. Henry Ford, too, was reborn in the furnace of bankruptcy. Each collapse of his early ventures was a burial. Each new attempt was a resurrection of a stronger, colder, more precise version of himself. He outgrew failure by refusing to identify with it. When his first motor company failed, he did not say, "I am a failure." He said, "That was a method that did not work." His identity remained faithful to the man who would one day change the world. The law of inner rebirth requires that you say nightly, "I release who I was to make room for who I am becoming." Say it with the calm authority of a man closing a ledger. For each day, the subconscious releases fragments of the old you. It dissolves the fears, it erases the falsehoods, it removes the invisible chains of your lineage, but it will not act without your permission. Rebirth is the natural consequence of your persistence. Each affirmation you speak, each visualization of your power, and each night of unwavering faith plants new life within the gears. You do not see the growth in the moment, but it is happening beneath the soil of your awareness. One night, the shell of your old habit will finally give way, and the sprout of conviction will appear. You will begin to think differently. You will speak with a new resonance. You will decide with a new speed. The change will eventually feel effortless because it is no longer a conscious effort. It has become your identity. Understand this industrial truth. Identity governs destiny. A man can never consistently act against the image he holds of himself. Therefore, to change your destiny in 2026, you must first change the identity that drives the machine. The law of inner rebirth is the method by which that identity renews itself. It rebuilds your self-image through the heat of repetition until the subconscious forgets the old pattern of lack entirely. There is no single, loud moment when the old dies and the new is born. It happens gradually, like the dawn slowly overtaking the night. The light increases until the darkness simply disappears without a struggle. Do not rush this process. Let faith work in the secret darkness of the subconscious. The great oak does not strain to outgrow its shell. It expands naturally, and the shell breaks because it can no longer contain the power within. So it is with your mind. You will notice the subtle signs of your rebirth. Fear will arise less frequently, and when it does, it will pass through you like a ghost with no grip. Old habits of hesitation will start to feel foreign, as if they belong to someone else. You will begin to act decisively. You will speak confidently without needing to prepare your courage. The same world will look different to you because the observer has been reconstructed. The universe, obedient to your inner image, will begin to reflect the new man you have become. Others will sense it before they can name it. They will feel a new gravity in your presence, a quiet, heavy certainty. Some will admire it, others will resist it, for your transformation reminds them of their own stagnation. Do not shrink back for the sake of their comfort.
Let your rebirth stand as the silent proof of what faith can accomplish in a man of industry. The world does not need your explanations, it needs your demonstration. You must learn to honor the period of stillness between the death of the old and the appearance of the new. This is where many falter. They feel the void of the transition, and they rush to fill it with the familiar garbage of their past. They call this discomfort failure, when in truth it is the purge. The subconscious, in the act of erasing its old records, passes through a period of emptiness. Be still, endure the silence. That emptiness is the womb of your next great creation.
To assist this process, you must practice nightly surrender. As you lie in your bed, imagine placing all your old memories of defeat, all your grudges, and all your disappointments into a great, white-hot industrial fire. Watch them melt until nothing remains but pure, formless light. Say to the darkness, "I am new." Do not concern yourself with how this will manifest in the daylight. The subconscious understands symbolism better than it understands logic. It will interpret this act as your readiness for a total renewal. Every spiritual teacher, every inventor, and every leader of men has known this rebirth. It is not a mystery reserved for the saints. It is the law of progress itself. Each new level of achievement requires the death of the old level of understanding. Every discovery demands the abandonment of former ignorance. When Edison found the light, he had to let go of the belief that failure was a stopping point. When Carnegie constructed his empire, he had to release the idea that leadership required a high-born privilege. The same process is waiting for you tonight. You will rise no higher than the truth you accept about yourself. If you still see yourself as a victim of the economy or of your upbringing, the subconscious must produce the circumstances that confirm that vision. But if you replace that image with one of mastery, the world will yield to you accordingly. The subconscious does not distinguish between life and death. It recognizes only continuity. When you let an old, dead idea die, it instantly begins constructing the new. Therefore, you lose nothing by letting go of your past. You gain the freedom of the future. The more you release, the faster the law rebuilds. To live under this law is to experience perpetual renewal. Each night becomes a resurrection. Each morning becomes a new birth. The man who understands this no longer fears change, he invites it. For change is merely the sound of the old mold breaking to make room for a larger casting. You cannot be reborn while you are still defending your past. Many men imprison themselves by rehearsing their old injuries and their old regrets. They polish their chains and they call it reflection. But reflection without renewal is merely decay. Let the past serve you as a teacher, but do not let it serve as your jailer. Say, "The past has served me. It no longer defines me." Then close the iron door behind you. Do not mourn what falls away. When the caterpillar dissolves in the cocoon, it may imagine it is dying. In truth, it is becoming a creature of the air. The discomfort you feel during your inner change is the proof that a greater form is taking shape. Hold your faith during the melting, and you will emerge with the wings of a titan. Every new identity must be reinforced through the engine of repetition. The mind forgets the new and clings to the old with a desperate grip. Just as muscles atrophy without the labor of the forge, your new belief will weaken if it is not rehearsed. Each morning and each night you must affirm, "I am born of faith, not of fear. My mind is new, therefore my life is new." Speak it until it becomes your instinct. Notice how this rebirth alters your relation to the world. Where you once sought validation from the crowd, you will now offer assurance. Where you once feared judgment, you will now extend understanding. The man reborn sees not competition but cooperation, not obstacles but design. His very presence changes the emotional climate of every room he enters. The subconscious rewards this new identity with a flood of creative power.
Ideas will arise unbidden from the depths. Opportunities will appear spontaneously. What the world calls luck will become your daily companion. These are not miracles, they are the natural expression of a mind freed from the friction of internal contradiction. The universe responds with a terrifying speed to a man who finally knows who he is. Rebirth brings a profound simplicity. The struggle of self-doubt ends. The endless questioning of your own worth ceases. The man who has rebuilt himself walks in a quiet, heavy confidence. His decisions are final. His steps are deliberate. His words are few and powerful. He no longer asks for permission from the world because his authority comes from the law within. This is the true meaning of faith, not a hope for better days, but a certainty of your own power to create them. The reborn man does not wait for conditions to change. He changes the conditions by the weight of his own state of mind. The law demands maintenance. Identity, once renewed, must be kept clean from the dust of fear and the soot of criticism. Each day, life will test your new image. It will ask, do you still believe? Do not answer with an argument. Answer with a calm persistence. Each time you reaffirm your faith in the face of a challenge, you strengthen the structure of your new self. When old habits attempt to return, and they will, do not fight them, outgrow them. Replace each one with a higher expression. Where you once complained, give thanks. Where you once hesitated, decide. Where you once feared, act. Every small victory declares to the subconscious, the old life is gone, the new life reigns. There will come a night, very soon, when you will feel entirely different, though you cannot explain the cause to a common man. You will wake lighter, as if a massive weight has vanished from your chest. Your thoughts will move without resistance. You will sense that life is responding to you with a new, respectful rhythm. That is the sign of a full rebirth. It is the moment the subconscious has fully accepted the new order of your existence. Do not expect a fanfare. True rebirth happens in the silence of the midnight hour. The world may continue as before, unaware that a king has risen where a beggar slept. But soon, the events of your life will reveal the truth. New opportunities, harmonious partnerships, increased prosperity, and renewed vitality. The outer world must conform to the inner decree. When you reach this state, use your power wisely. Remember that every power, if misused, will decay into rust. Stay humble before the law. Continue your nightly gratitude. Bless others in their struggle, for they are traveling the same road of fire. Speak faith into their lives as you once spoke it into your own. The man who shares his abundance multiplies it. This is how you secure permanent success. The man who renews himself continually never grows old in spirit. He evolves beyond limitation as naturally as the seasons turn the leaves. Failure cannot touch him, for each year brings a deeper understanding of the law. End each day with this sacred declaration: I die daily to my weakness, and I am born to my power. I am not who I was, I am who I decide to be. Infinite intelligence works through me to create the man I was destined to become. Speak these words softly and let them carry you into the world of rest. As you sleep, the subconscious will begin its holy labor. It will rewrite the records of your past. It will erase the scars of old defeat, and it will carve upon your soul the signature of greatness. It will fashion in secret what the daylight will one day reveal, a life aligned with divine law. When you awaken, act as though the transformation is already complete. Move as the new man would move. Think as he would think. Speak as he would speak. The subconscious recognizes consistency. It will strengthen whatever you express through your action. If doubt returns, smile at it. It is only the ghost of an old belief fading away into the smoke. Say, you no longer belong here. The subconscious will take note and continue the cleansing. As the months of 2026 pass, you will realize that life has grown gentler and more obedient. People will respond to you with a new level of respect. Obstacles will seem to dissolve before they ever form. Inner guidance will become clear and immediate. These are the signs of a rebirth made visible. At last, you will understand that what you sought all along was not wealth or power or success, but the renewal of mind, the awakening of the godlike power within you. For every limitation was but a shadow of a forgotten faith, and every fear was only a lie told by a dying self. Now that the new man stands, the law itself will serve him faithfully. He will walk with quiet strength, knowing that no obstacle can withstand a soul reborn in faith. He will bless adversity as a friend, greet uncertainty as a teacher, and command life as its rightful master. And when others ask, "What changed you?" you will answer with a calm, industrial smile, "I remembered who I am."
There is a point in a man's life where he must cease being a spectator and become the commander of his own machinery. Most men spend their lives waiting for life to work out for them. They wait for the market to improve. They wait for their families to understand them. They wait for a sign of luck. But I tell you, based on every furnace I have stoked and every fortune I have built, life does not work out for the man who waits. Life works out for the man who commands. This is the law of command. It is the bridge between having a wish and having a result. A wish is a weak, vaporous thing. It has no mass, no heat, and no authority. But a command is a spiritual decree that sets the laws of the universe in motion. When a man decides, truly decides, that everything will work out for him, he is not making a prediction, he is issuing an industrial order. Look at the difference between the drifter and the titan. The drifter hopes for a better year in 2026. He prays that the winds will be kind to his small boat. But the titan knows that he is the captain of the ship and the master of the wind. He does not hope for a favorable outcome. He demands it through the precision of his thought and the persistence of his action. You must understand the weight of a decision. A real decision is a cut. It is the act of severing yourself from every other possibility except the one you have chosen. When Henry Ford decided to build the V8 engine, he did not ask his engineers if it was possible. He commanded them to produce it. When they returned to him, month after month, claiming it was an impossibility, he did not yield. He did not hope they would find a way. He sat in his authority and said, "Produce it anyway." He was the commander of the result long before the first engine ever roared to life. Every time you hesitate, every time you say, "I'll try," you are confessing to your subconscious that you are not in control. You are telling the machinery of your life that you are a servant, not a master. And the subconscious, loyal as it is, will manifest exactly that. A life of service to others' whims, a life of crumbs, a life of almost. But when you stand in your own invisible courtroom and you declare, "Everything works out for me because I make it work," you are flipping the switch on a massive power grid. You are telling your subconscious that the debate is over, the trial has ended, the verdict is success. Once the subconscious accepts this command, it begins to filter your reality differently. It stops looking for reasons why you might fail and starts calculating the path to the prize. Think of the law of mental gravity. A man who carries himself with absolute certainty becomes a center of attraction. Opportunity does not choose the lucky, it chooses the ready. It chooses the man whose very presence declares that he is a safe harbor for responsibility and capital. A man who drifts is a man who repels opportunity, but a man who commands, who walks with the gravity of a titan, draws to himself the people, the means, and the coincidences required for his ascent. You must train your voice until it carries the vibration of authority. When you speak your morning decrees, you are not reciting poetry. You are speaking into the substance of the universe. You are molding the invisible ore into the visible structure. Carnegie did not become the richest man in the world by asking for steel contracts. He became the richest man by expecting them, by organizing his mind so thoroughly that any other outcome was an industrial absurdity. Consider your own home. Your family studies you. They see the flicker of doubt in your eyes when you speak of your goals. They hear the tremble of hope in your voice. They have seen you rise with a plan and fall back into the soot of habit by nightfall. If you want their respect, you must first earn the respect of your own subconscious mind. You must become a man of his word. When you give yourself a command, you must obey it with the loyalty of a soldier. Each time you follow through on a small daily discipline, you are increasing your command authority. The world respects the man who advances without permission. It bends for the man who refuses to drift. This bending of life is not a mystical secret. It is a mechanical result. It is cause and effect. If you are the cause, the world is the effect. If the world is the cause, you are merely a shadow. Tonight, as you listen to these words, you are reclaiming your seat at the throttle. You are deciding that your days will no longer be lawless. You are deciding that your income will no longer be a matter of chance. You are deciding that your health and your peace will no longer be accidents. You are issuing the final decree of 2026. I am the master of my fate. I am the commander of my soul. And everything in this universe, from the smallest atom to the largest industry, must align with my definite purpose. Say it now, not with your lips, but with your will. Everything works out for me because I am the cause of my results. Feel the heat of that decision. Feel the responsibility. Feel the power.
To command your destiny, you must understand that no man is an island of industry. Even the Iron Master, Andrew Carnegie, knew that his power did not reside in his hands alone, but in his ability to organize the mental power of others. This is the law of the mastermind, the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. But listen closely. You cannot attract a mastermind of titans if you are a man of drift. Like attracts like. This is an industrial law as rigid as the properties of carbon and iron. If you are disorganized in your thinking, you will attract disorganized labor. If you are fearful in your decisions, you will attract partners who harbor doubt. But when you install the command identity, your very vibration changes. You become an industrial magnet. Carnegie once said that he owed his entire fortune to the fact that he surrounded himself with men who knew more about the steel business than he did. But why did those men follow him? They followed him because Carnegie was definite. He carried the atmosphere of achievement. He did not ask for their opinions on whether he should succeed. He commanded the vision, and they provided the technical means to manifest it. You must develop this atmosphere of command in your own home and in your own ledger. When you speak to your associates or your family or your bankers in 2026, do you speak from a place of supplication or sovereignty? The man who supplicates, who begs for a break or a chance, is telling the universe he is a tenant, not an owner. But the man who speaks from sovereignty acts as though the contract is already signed, the capital is already allocated, and the result is already in the warehouse. This is the mastery of choice. Every hour you are making a choice between the old script and the new command. When a setback occurs, when a shipment is late, or a deal falls through, the old script wants you to say, "See, it never works out." That is the voice of the drifter. But the new command dictates that you say, "This is a necessary refinement. The law is moving the pieces into a better position for my victory." The sound of a heavy steam press, thudding, rhythmic, and relentless. By holding this line, you are training your subconscious to ignore the visible evidence and focus on the invisible order. This is how you save 10, 20, or 30 years of your life. The average man spends decades reacting to his problems. He is like a fireman who spends his whole career putting out fires he accidentally started with his own careless thoughts. But the commander builds a fireproof structure from the beginning. He spends his energy on construction, not crisis management. You must become irresistible to life. This is not a matter of charm, it is a matter of rhythm. Life follows the man who walks with a steady, unhurried pace. In the great panics of the 19th century, when the banks were closing and the streets were filled with desperate men, John D. Rockefeller walked into his office with the same calm, surgical precision he had during the boom years. His pulse did not quicken, his decisions did not become erratic, he stayed in his command rhythm. Because of this, the men of the city looked to him as the only stable pillar in a world of chaos. They gave him their trust, they gave him their capital, and they gave him his empire. You are being asked to do the same. In the noise of 2026, you must be the still center of the machine. You must repeat your morning decrees until they are no longer words you say, but a frequency you are. Everything works out for me. Speak it into the face of the storm. Speak it into the ledger of your debts. Speak it into the mirror of your doubts. As you do, the subconscious begins its magnetic alignment. It starts to draw toward you the specific mastermind partners, the specific ideas, and the specific coincidences required to fulfill the command. Your rise is not a matter of if, it is a matter of mechanical sequence. You have laid the foundation in part 1. You have testified in part 2. You have interpreted the evidence in part 3. You have been reborn in part 4. Now, in part 5, you are taking the seat of the commander. You are issuing the orders that the rest of your life must obey. Lie back now. Let the sound of the industry fill your mind. Know that the gears are turning in your favor. The old identity has been liquidated. The new titan is being cast in the mold of faith.
The spoken word is only the beginning of the industrial process. To decree is to plant the seed, but to complete the creation, you must move into the state of total possession. The law of completion demands an absolute harmony between your internal belief and your external conduct. Once you have impressed the subconscious through the hours of repetition, gratitude, and faith we have established tonight, the proof of your mastery must appear in your daily conduct. The man who truly believes cannot and will not remain idle. His every movement becomes a physical extension of his internal decree. To complete a creation in 2026, you must live as if the work were already done. This is not acting or pretending, it is participation in the finished pattern. Infinite intelligence has already prepared the result the moment your faith was declared as law. You are not working toward your goal, you are working from it. Every act performed in that awareness speeds its manifestation. Every doubt-filled hesitation delays it. The universe has no room for a man of contradiction. You cannot affirm abundance in your morning decree and then spend your afternoon complaining about the cost of living. You cannot say, "I am so happy and grateful that I am a titan," and then walk with the slumped shoulders of a defeated laborer. The law does not judge you by your intention, but by your vibration. When your actions match your words, your decree gains the weight of a locomotive. When they oppose each other, your power cancels itself out in a hiss of wasted steam. To live in faith is to walk as one who already possesses the ledger. You buy, you plan, you decide, and you speak with the calm, heavy confidence of completion. You do not wait for opportunity to knock. You build the door and you prepare the room. You do not ask whether your goal is possible, you simply arrange your life around its certainty. The man who truly believes acts without the friction of anxiety because he knows the law of cause and effect cannot fail. Faith in action is the highest proof of industrial understanding. You may speak your decree 100 times a day, but if your conduct contradicts your confession, you remain a house divided. The subconscious receives those mixed signals, and in its perfect obedience, it manifests a life of confusion. But the complete man lives in total agreement with his command. His words, his thoughts, and his deeds form one single current moving in one single direction. This is what separates the dreamer from the doer. The dreamer waits for a sign before acting. The doer acts as the sign. Henry Ford knew this law instinctively. When his engineers told him that the 8-cylinder engine was an impossibility, he did not enter into a debate. He did not ask for their opinion on the laws of physics. He simply said, "Produce it." Those 2 words were not a wish, they were the law in action. He moved as one who had already succeeded, and his cold certainty magnetized the intellect of every man in that room. Months later, as the first V8 roared to life, the engineers stood astonished. The impossible had become a fact because one man refused to allow his actions to be dictated by his eyes. A man who is persistent in his action does not need constant inspiration. He does not need a cheering crowd. He continues because he has given his word to himself. Persistence is the highest form of self-respect. Life respects the man who continues when the weather is foul. He may be bruised by the market, he may be tired by the labor, he may be ridiculed by the small-minded, yet he continues. And because he continues, life eventually yields. The circumstances that once resisted him begin to weaken. The obstacles that once intimidated him begin to shrink. Persistence is not a loud, frantic force. It is a quiet, stubborn flame that refuses to be extinguished by the winds of 2026. Thomas Edison embodied this flame. 10,000 failures surrounded him like a wall of darkness, yet he persisted. His action was not emotional, it was deliberate. He acted daily, even when the results were invisible to the naked eye. His actions became the very foundation of modern civilization. Think of Andrew Carnegie. He was refused opportunity 1,000 times as a young man, yet each refusal only served to sharpen his determination. He continued, he acted, he insisted, and the world eventually moved aside to recognize a man who would not be denied his seat at the table. When a man persists long enough, life begins to trust him. Opportunity visits him repeatedly because opportunity sees that he will not squander the visit. Your action transforms more than your results. It transforms your repetition. The man who acts gains an immediate credibility in his own home. His spouse sees movement instead of excuses. He hears progress instead of empty promises. He observes that each day he is shaping a future, not merely talking about one in his sleep. Respect returns to the household when the man begins to move with purpose. Children learn by imitation, not by lecture. They watch you. They see when you rise with a definite chief aim, and they see when you shrink beneath the weight of your own hesitation. If you want them to be titans, you must show them what a titan looks like when he is faced with a wall. You must show them that action eliminates fear faster than any amount of thinking ever could. The man who acts decisively becomes immune to the paralysis of analysis that stops the common man. He becomes too busy moving to be disrupted by the whispers of doubt. He becomes too engaged in progress to be delayed by the ghosts of his past. Action carries him like a deep river current carries a massive ship. The more he moves, the more the momentum strengthens. You must teach your body to obey your mind without question. When your mind gives the order to rise, the body must rise. When the mind gives the order to speak, the tongue must speak.
Delay is the rust of authority. Immediate action is the polish of the spirit. Every time you obey your own command, you increase your power. Every time you hesitate, you diminish it. Action creates identity. A man who acts daily becomes the kind of man who expects results. His identity shifts from dreamer to doer, from observer to creator, from drifter to commander. This identity becomes permanent only through the furnace of action. Words plant the seed, but action grows the tree. Do not underestimate the power of small, disciplined actions. A single disciplined act performed every morning at 5 a.m. can alter the entire course of your lineage. When repeated 1,000 times, it reshapes your character, your destiny, and your reputation. Life applauds movement. Life mirrors movement. Life accelerates when a man accelerates. A man who stands still invites stagnation and rot. A man who acts invites the infinite. Your task is simple. You must become the man who acts while others wait, the man who moves while others hesitate, the man who builds while others dream, the man who continues while others surrender. That man always wins the ledger. Action is not merely a choice, it is a declaration of sovereignty. It declares to the world, I am worthy of the result. It declares to your mind, I command my destiny. It declares to your future, prepare a place for me, for I am already on my way. Say the words now, and let them be the final seal of this hour. I move, I act, I advance. Life obeys me because I obey my purpose.
We have built the foundation. We have testified in the courtroom. We have interpreted the evidence. We have liquidated the old self. Now we enter the treasury. You must understand that capital is not a thing you get. It is a frequency you command. The reason 98% of men remain in financial suit is not because they lack opportunity, but because they possess a poverty vibration. They speak of wealth while their internal ledger is written in the ink of lack. They ask for millions while their subconscious is still counting pennies. Tonight, we rewrite the financial blueprint once and for all. Infinite intelligence is a vast industrial reservoir of supply. It does not know the difference between $1 and $1 billion. It only knows the intensity of the command. When you say, everything works out for me, that includes your capital, your assets, and your industrial dominion. But to manifest the harvest, you must become the man who can hold the weight of the gold. You must develop what I call the Titan's nervous system. Most men, if handed $1 million tomorrow, would be crushed by it because their internal structure is made of wood and straw. You must forge a structure of iron. Listen to the law of the financial mastermind. Every great fortune in America was built by men who understood that money follows definiteness. It does not flow toward hope, it flows toward order. If your financial life is in chaos, it is because your mind is in chaos. You cannot attract an organized fortune with a disorganized mind. You must begin to treat your thoughts as employees. Are they producing value? Are they loyal to the chief aim? Or are they drifters stealing time from your mental factory? Fire the thoughts of lack. Liquidate the beliefs of not enough. You must develop the habit of thinking in surpluses. When you look at your ledger, do not see what is missing. See the vacuum of opportunity that you are about to fill. The subconscious mind is a perfect vacuum pump. It will pull into your life whatever you prepare a space for. If you prepare a space for debt, it will fill it with debt. If you prepare a space for massive industrial expansion, it must fill it with expansion. This is the law of the harvest. You reap exactly what you have set in the gears of your expectation. Andrew Carnegie did not start with steel mills. He started with a wealth consciousness. As a young boy, he did not look at the wealthy with envy, the emotion of the weak. He looked at them with recognition. He saw their success as a mirror of his own future.
He aligned his vibration with the frequency of power long before he had ascent to his name. He spoke as a master, he walked as an owner, he decided as a king, and the physical world had no choice but to provide the steel and the steam to match his internal decree. In 2026, the noise of the world will try to pull you back into the vibration of economic fear. The headlines will tell you of scarcity. The common man will tell you of hard times. You must close the gate. You must become the silent partner of infinite intelligence. When the world says there is no way, you must decree, I am the way. When the world says the market is down, you must decree, my market is always up, for I am the cause of my own supply. This is not positive thinking. This is industrial sovereignty. It is the refusal to allow your internal ledger to be edited by external circumstances. You must practice the 5-minute financial decree every night before the world of sleep takes you. Picture your definite chief aim as a finished, tangible product. See the bank statements, feel the texture of the contracts, hear the sound of the machinery running at full capacity in your honor. And then, most importantly, give thanks. Gratitude is the final signature on the contract. It tells the subconscious that the transaction is complete. If you feel a flicker of doubt while doing this, do not fight it. Simply increase the pressure of the command. Use the doubt as a signal to stoke the furnace of your faith even higher. Doubt is merely unprocessed energy. It is the raw ore that has not yet been refined. Put it back into the heat of your repetition. Say it until the doubt is consumed by the heat of your certainty. Everything works out for me. My supply is infinite. My power is absolute. My success is mechanical. The men who built the railroads did not wait for the tracks to appear. They laid the iron inch by inch through the frozen mountains because they had already arrived at the destination in their minds. You must do the same with your 2026. You must arrive tonight. You must see the end from the beginning. You must inhabit the version of yourself that has already won the war. The version of you that no longer worries about capital because you are capital. The version of you that no longer seeks opportunity because you create it. As you drift into sleep, let these words be the last coal you put into the furnace of your subconscious. I am the master of the harvest. My mind is a magnet for all I desire. I thank the infinite intelligence for the millions that are currently on their way to me. I rest in the certainty of my dominion. It is done. It is finished. It is cast in iron. Feel the weight of the gold. Feel the heat of the power. Feel the silence of the master. Your life is no longer a matter of if, it is a matter of decree. The 2-hour installation is complete. The machinery is set. Now, let the subconscious labor while you rest. For tomorrow, you wake as the Titan.